Hi guys, how y'all doing? Welcome back to another video in the channel on an absolutely scorching day here in the UK today, and also even up here in the northeast as well, which makes a change, it must be said. But yeah, lovely day today. You don't want to be out and about reporting on transfers. It's nicer just to be sat in the garden. But I thought I'd just come on and give you guys a little bit of an update about some news we've been reporting overnight regarding Jacob Ramsey, and also just some more thoughts on the Alexander Isak situation, if you've not had enough already. So anyway, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, leave your comments below, thumbs up if you like these kind of videos, or if you'd prefer I just stuck to the facts, let me know. But anyway, let's get into it. So first of all, Jacob Ramsey. I'm going to struggle to call him Jacob Ramsey because I keep wanting to say Jacob Murphy. In fact, I've done it a couple of times already. But Jacob Ramsey, as we told you last night, and others did as well, is in talks with Newcastle over a move to Tyneside. I know there's some reports out there that an agreement is in place already, but as I sit here right now on Wednesday afternoon, I can tell you that is not the case. And there is still quite a bit of work to do to get that deal over the line, which of course would not surprise you, because all Newcastle transfer dealings right now appear to be fairly or very protracted. So look, I do think we'll have some kind of answer, clarification on this by the weekend. Do I expect the player to sign? Yes, I just think there's a few hurdles that need to be overcome first. So obviously I'm aware of certain outlets and individuals online who like to just knock things on a little bit and say it's done when it's not done yet. But look, from having spoken to a number of sources involved in the deal, there is still work to do. However, by the time you're watching this, maybe on Wednesday night or Thursday, it might be done. I'm just talking at this present time. So look, I first heard about this story on Monday afternoon. Was kind of swayed against reporting it. Look, I think Newcastle have missed out on so many players recently that they're worried about stuff coming out. I get that. So frustratingly for me, sat on it for a day, and then of course it emerged last night. But I don't think it's really a surprise to anyone, because this is a player that Newcastle have looked at previously. We know they've certainly made a little inquiry over his availability to Aston Villa, and I think it was maybe last summer's transfer window. But it's a player that Eddie Howe really likes. You can imagine him fitting into their style of play in terms of his speed, his skill, his ability to play a few positions. He's also, from what I hear from my sources at Aston Villa, a really good character, a really top lad, like really grounded, and would fit in perfectly with the ethos at Newcastle. So the fact that he's available, and as I say, I heard of that on Monday afternoon, that he could be available by Aston Villa due to their financial situation and they need to lose someone. The fact that he's available, I think Newcastle have looked at it and thought, here's an opportunity. We need to grasp this opportunity. We've seen it before with Anthony Gordon, where they took advantage of his fallout at Everton. We've seen it before even when they signed Alexander Isak, and a variety of different players where they've pressed the button just at the really important time, and they've managed to get their man. Well, this feels a little bit like that they're taking advantage of the situation at Villa, or attempting to take advantage of the situation at Villa and get Jacob Ramsey to the club. Now, price, I'm told the package is £40 million, which is inclusive of add-ons, so I'll try and get a bit more on that for you. It's probably going to be something like 35 plus 5 or 32 plus 7.5, something along those lines. But a £40 million package, I mean, look, it's a huge amount of money, isn't it? But it just feels that, you know, even an average player these days begins with a 3. I mean, the prices that are being banded around this transfer window are just incredible when you're looking at how much you're paying for a player these days. I mean, £40 million for a guy who, look, yes, he looks a good player, but is he one of the starting 11 at Villa? Certainly not every week. I think Unai Emery likes him. He played him a lot last season. But he's someone who I think will come into the Newcastle squad, and he's going to have to fight for his position. I don't think he walks straight into the starting 11. I think he's going to have to fight for his spot. But one thing I did think about his imminent arrival is that it's interesting where he plays. Like, obviously Villa quite often play a 4-2-3-1, and he plays wide on the left. I don't think he's played too much in a 4-3-3 wide on the left, or too much in a 4-3-3 as like one of the the number 8s, if you like, in a midfield three. So I don't know if Newcastle's formation is perfect for him. Maybe Eddie Howe sees something a little bit different. Maybe Eddie's going to tweak the formation a little bit at times this season. But something that I've thought is that I actually think he could play wide left in a three, particularly in these big European games where you're probably not going to have a lot of the ball and you're maybe defending and you need your wide men to tuck in and help the midfield, and he's obviously a disciplined player. But I think probably Eddie Howe's looking at it and thinking, depending on what happens with Alexander Isak, we may not get in a replacement, or we may have to keep Isak and he might not be available, or he might not be happy, or he might not be able to play. There's a big question mark over that at the moment. So I think he's looking at it and thinking, right, let's look at Anthony Gordon at the moment to start the season, certainly, as a centre forward. And look, I think we all would suspect and agree that Gordon will start through the middle against Aston Villa in the opener on Saturday. And if he does that and he does well, and we've seen him play well there for Newcastle before, I just think because they're in desperate need of a player in that position, and that's going to be Gordon right now, that opens up a slot wide left. Now, of course, Harvey Barnes is there, excellent player, really good option. But if Gordon's now almost seen as a central striker at the start of the season, due to the fact that you're short in bodies there, then you kind of need two options in the left, don't you? So having Barnes and Ramsey almost allows you to think of Gordon more as a central striker. Now, whether Gordon's that happy with that, I'm not too sure. But I just think it might be, it's quite clever from Eddie Howe, because it means you're not going to be too short wide on the left. You know, if Barnes got injured, Gordon needs to play wide left, and then that takes him away from being an option through the middle. So it just beefs up the attack, doesn't it? It gives you an extra player in the left, which in turn gives you an extra player in the middle in the shape of Gordon, and just kind of changes the dynamic of it a little bit. So I think it's quite clever, and he's obviously a player that Eddie's liked for a long time. And you know, let's look at his track record in terms of signings. It's been exemplary. I mean, he's pretty much improved every player he's got. Look what he's done with Isak. Look what he's done with Tonali. Look what he's done with Gordon. You know, pretty much all of them. Tino, Lewis, Hall. You know, he's got an impeccable track record, and you would expect him to do the same again with Jacob Ramsey. So look, it's maybe not one that's whetting the appetite of the Newcastle fans, but I think it's a clever bit of business. So let's see whether they can get done by the weekend. I'm told there's still a bit of work to do, and yeah, they're hopeful of getting a deal done for around about £40 million, but there's not an agreement there in place as I sit here and talk to you at 2:45 on Wednesday afternoon. Now on to Alexander Isak. I'm sure we're all aware of the reports that were in The Athletic yesterday that he's essentially saying he's played his last game for the club and he doesn't intend to play for the club even if he remains after the transfer window. I mean, that to me looks like a tactic to try and push through a move away. Will Alexander Isak really sit there once the transfer window's closed and he's still a Newcastle player? Will he honestly sit there and refuse to play until January or until next summer? I would be really surprised if that happened, because what's that going to do for his body? What's that going to do for his sharpness? What's that going to do for other clubs looking at him? And Gabby Agbonlahor made a good point yesterday. Like, other clubs looking at him are going to see that sulking and that attitude and that refusal to play, if that is true. And it doesn't look good on your character moving forward. And we'll have to wait and see what happens, but I would be surprised if he does stay. I would be surprised that if he stays, he doesn't make himself available to play. I just can't see that happening. It's not good for your career, not to play football. Newcastle they've got a really strong squad. They've got Champions League football. You've just won your first trophy. You're not leaving a club who are on their knees struggling. Like, you've got a good squad of players there. I feel the push to try and get out of the club hasn't been reflected by the situation that the club finds themselves in on the pitch. Like, so much to look forward to this season. So that's one thing. But I also feel that there will come a time with this. Like, if that is true, what The Athletic have said yesterday, and the plan is for him to dig his heels in if he's kept and refuse to play. For me, there comes a time, if you're involved in the recruitment of the club or you're making the decisions, where has he crossed the line? Has his position become untenable? Like, is there any point in keeping someone who, if that's true, does not want to be there in any shape or form? Because you're just going to affect the rest of the squad. Eddie's already alluded to that it's affected the rest of the squad so far. I don't think some of the players are happy at what they've seen, and etc. And is it not just better concentrating on the players you've got? Take the money while he's at an optimum, because you've got a depreciating asset there, because clearly you're not going to get the same for him next summer as you get for him now. Take the money now while it's there, clean the place up because he's leaving, there's not that issue in the background, and concentrate on the players who want to be there. That would be my viewpoint. And yeah, I know the noises and the guidance has been that Newcastle will not allow Isak to leave until they get a replacement, right? And I get that, but they don't want to just go out and splash out £80 million on someone they don't want. Like they really tried for Sesko last week, and that's why, you know, there's a lot of things out there saying that he's not for sale. Well, of course he's for sale, because they tried to bring in Sesko last week and Sesko was his replacement. It's just he's only for sale if they find a replacement. Sesko was that man, they failed to get him. Is there someone else to come in and replace him? I don't think there is, from what I'm hearing. So I just think there comes a point where you must be thinking, maybe you just let him go anyway, because then you get rid of the problem. You get the money into the bank now that you can then reinvest into the team, whether that's in January or next summer when there's more options available. And you just go with what you've got. Like, if he's not going to play anyway, if he's going to kick up fuss at the start of the season, I just think there comes a point where you think, yes, I know the club want a replacement, but if there isn't one to come in and he's still got the same attitude, then in my opinion, you'd be better just starting the season without him, and starting the season with Anthony Gordon and Johan Wissa if you manage to get him in, and they're your two central strikers. I know it's not ideal going into a big season, Champions League fixtures, etc., but for me, that's a better outcome than starting the season with Gordon, Wissa and Isak, and Isak's either A, refusing to play, or B, sulking and causing problems and not giving 100%. You know, get the money in the bank and get the control back so you can then go out and spend. So yeah, I just think there come up. I know we've all been saying all along that Newcastle will not let him go until there's a replacement. I get that and understand it, but for me, that maybe there's going to come a point where that changes, and they think, hang on, let's take the money now, and okay, maybe we don't have a replacement, but at least we're not just buying someone for the sake of it. Now that goes against what I said the other night, where I said it's increasingly likely he'll stay, and I do feel as the days go on there is more chance of him staying. I don't think this deal's going to get pushed through at the very last minute, but that just shows you that all options are on the table at the moment. Plates are spinning. It's a very, very fluid situation, and still anything could happen. So people come up to me in the street and they say, is Isak staying or is Isak going? The truth is, nobody knows. Newcastle people can write and say he's definitely staying, he's not for sale, but if the right offer came in for Liverpool, of course he would be for sale, because he would go. And if Newcastle got Sesko in last week, he would have been good as well. So just a few thoughts there around the situation. I hope I've not bored you too much, but that's the latest on Jacob Ramsey, and I think, look, positive that you're going to have Malik Chow and potentially Jacob Ramsey in before the weekend for the trip down to Villa, because I think it just gives the rest of the players a little extra spring in their step with this whole Isak situation dragging on in the background. Okay guys, leave your comments below. See you soon. Cheers.